Hey guys, welcome to this lesson on perimeter. So today we're going to be talking about perimeter. What is perimeter? I hear you asking me. Well, perimeter is just the length around the outside of a closed shape. These are all closed shape because they all start and finish at some point. And the perimeter is going to be the length around each of these. So how do we find the perimeter? Well, if we don't know the lengths, we have to go and measure it. So when we measure the lengths, we'll look on our ruler and we'll just zoom in. And if you can see there, I measure that length to be 4 centimeters. Then we'll measure the side length there. That's also 4 centimeters because it goes from 0 to 4. We'll measure the bottom. The bottom is also 4 centimeters. And I'm sure you can guess what the left-hand side should be. That's also going to be 4 centimeters. So just remember that perimeter is the length around the outside of a shape. So if I'm starting down here and I go this way around the shape, the perimeter is going to be adding up all those different lengths. So it's 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. When you add all of those together, 4, 8, 12, 16, and don't forget to put down your units. All right, let's have a look at the triangle. Alright, so what's the length of this side here? It looks like it goes up to 6, so that'll be 6 centimeters. Let's measure at the bottom now. The bottom, if we look carefully, goes up to 5.1, 5.2. So it's around 5.2 centimeters. So we'll put 5.2 centimeters there. And then let's measure the other side. So the other side looks like it goes from 0 to 6. So again, that's 6 centimeters. What do we notice about this triangle? We notice that this side is the same length as that side. And we use dashes to indicate that two lengths are the same. They might also be called ticks. Alright, so if we want to work out the perimeter of this shape, we just have to add up the 3 different lengths. So it's going to be 6 plus 6 plus 5.2. 6 and 6 is 12, 12 and 5 is 17, and we'll add on the 0.2, and that's 17.2 centimeters. So P denotes the perimeter of this shape. The length around the outside of the shape is 17.2 centimeters. This is also an isosceles triangle because 2 of the sides have got the same length. Alright, let's move on to the last one now. This is a rectangle. So again, if we're measuring at the lengths, we'll get out a ruler, we'll measure each of the lengths separately. That's 6 centimeters, 13 centimeters. One down here is going to be, oh, that looks about 5.9 centimeters. Looks like a rectangle, but it's not quite a rectangle. And the one at the bottom is going to be around 13 centimeters again. Alright, and then if we wanted to find the perimeter of this shape, we just add up the different lengths. So we'll go 6 plus 13 plus the 5.9 plus that 13 over there. So 13 and 13 is 26. 26 and 6 is 32. 32 and 6 is 38. So it'll be 37.9 centimeters. So the perimeter of this shape here, almost a rectangle, it's not quite a rectangle, is 37.9 centimeters. Alright, so on Connect, there is actually this diagram that you guys can see over here. And you can download this and print it off as a document if you wish. So this is a racing track. So this is a Formula 1 racing track, and the cars race around here like this. And we want to find out what the length of the track is. Now, you can see that the length of this track is going to be the same as the perimeter of the shape it makes. So, how do we do these ones now? Because if we got a ruler out, we can measure the straight lines quite easily, but then how do we measure these bends in the road? You know, how do we measure these bends in the road? Because they bend and my ruler doesn't bend with it. So for this activity, when you print it off and when you want to measure it, what I want you guys to do is to grab out anything that can bend. So as you can see here, I've just got my Apple charger. So you want something that can bend nicely, and you also want something that doesn't stretch too much, because obviously if we stretch it out, when we're measuring it, we're not going to get an accurate measurement because we have to stretch it out the exact same amount. So this one doesn't stretch at all. It's pretty firm, but it's still got enough flexibility to help me go around those corners. So how do we measure these kinds of shapes? Well, I'm going to pick a starting point. So I'm going to start here, and we're going to measure all the way around until we get back to that starting point. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get my cable out. We'll just move the ruler over there. And because we've got a nice straight line here, I'm going to start it on this bit of the USB. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to try and just maneuver our way around the shape. Oh, up there. Now we're going to go up to the top here. Now, ideally, you'd be wanting to do this with some sort of string. This thing is pretty firm, so that's about right there. And then we'll come down, and you'll notice that I'm using my fingers to keep track of where the cable's at. So when I'm moving it around, it doesn't shift around too much. And this is why string would be really good right now. Unfortunately, the shop's too far away, and I don't really want to go outside. So we're just going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep going around. All right, we finished roundabout here on my bit of USB cable. So the length would be starting from the USB bit, going all the way down to this bit down here. Where did my mark go? There it is over there. So that's how long this track is. So how do we actually measure this out now? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure out with my ruler on the piece of paper. Now that's in inches. So we don't want inches because that's the American system. We want centimeters because that's metric. And I'm just going to measure out 20 centimeters on my ruler. So I'm going to go here and we're going to measure out 20 centimeters. And then I'm going to do things in blocks of 20. So what I'm going to do now is that's 0 centimeters. That's 20 centimeters. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the USB end. And we're going to measure how many lots of 20 centimeters we get. So just make sure you keep it nice and straight, or as straight as possible. So that'll be the first lot of 20 centimeters. This will be the second lot of 20 centimeters. This would be the third lot of 20 centimeters. We've got 3 lots of 20 so far. Where is my blue bit? All the way down there. This will be the fourth lot of 20 centimeters. And as you can see there, we're getting pretty close to the fifth lot of 20 centimeters. That's not quite 5 lots of 20 centimeters. So we've got 4 lots of 20. So we'll keep track of that. 4 lots of 20 centimeters. And now we can bring back our ruler and get that last measurement more accurately. So we're just going to rotate that a bit there. We're going to start on 0 and we're going to go up to, and it's around 19.5. So I'll just zoom in quickly. So if you see, I'm starting at 0. Starting at 0, and I'm going to go up, and it goes up to around 19.5. Because there's 19, and that bigger tick or dash over there is the halfway mark between 19 and 20, around 19.5. So what do we have? We've got 4 lots of 20 centimeters, and we've got 1 lot of 19.5 centimeters. So it's almost 5 lots of 20 centimeters. So if we want 5 lots of 20 centimeters, what we need to do is bring up our calculator. So we're going to have 5 lots of 20 centimeters. But we didn't quite have 5. We were about half a centimeter short. So we'll take away half a centimeter. And that gives me 99.5. Okay, so if I added up the 4 lots of 20 and the 1 lot of 19.5, we ended up with 99.5 centimeters. So the other way to do that is to physically go 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus 20. So that's my 4 lots of 20 centimeters plus 1 lot of 19.5 centimeters. That gives me my 99.5 centimeters. So the perimeter of this track is 99.5 centimeters on this piece of paper. Obviously, it's a lot bigger in real life. You don't want race cars going 99.5 centimeters. They're probably longer than that, or they are longer than 99.5 centimeters. Okay, so just quickly, perimeter is the length around the outside of a shape. Okay, to find perimeter, we can add up the different lengths if they're nice and convenient and nice straight lines, so we can use a ruler to measure them. If the shape is not got a lot of straight lines, it's got curves and bends and that kind of thing in it, we can use things like string or pieces of cabling and things like that to help us actually work out what the perimeter is. Here's a little fun fact to do with perimeter. When you're driving around Australia, so when you're driving all the way around Australia, forget Tasmania for now, it's actually shorter to drive in an anti-clockwise direction than it would be to drive in a clockwise direction. So here's a little task for you. I want you guys to go to Connect, and I want you to go to the discussion board, and I want you to post what you think the reason is that it's quicker to travel around Australia in an anti-clockwise direction as opposed to going around it in a clockwise direction. So head on to Connect after you've watched this video and done the lesson, and I want you guys to post a comment about why you think it's shorter to go in an anti-clockwise direction as opposed to a clockwise direction. Let's look at some questions now. So I've got a farmer who wants to buy fencing for his cow paddock. The paddock is in the shape of a rectangle and has a width of 296 meters and a length of 1,983 meters. What length of fencing does he need? What do we know? We know that there is a rectangular paddock. It's a good rectangle there. Not really. It's got a width of 296. So if that's 296 meters on this side, it's 296 meters on this side. And it's got a length of 1,983 meters. 1,983 meters. So this one up here would also be 1,983 meters, because opposite ends in a rectangle are the same length. So what length of fencing does he need? So he wants to do this border all the way around here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to start down here. And I'm going to move around in a clockwise direction. So we're going to go across there, up there, across there, and then back down there. But we're going to start here. So the first length, so the perimeter, is 1,983 plus 296. We're going up here. Now we're going to go across to the right. So we're going to add on another 1,983. And then we've got to go down 296. At this point, I want you guys to grab your calculators out. And we'll just add all these different lengths together. So I got 1,983 plus 296 plus 1,983 plus 296. And that gives me a total of 4,562. So we'll add on 4,562 meters. So what length of fencing does he need? He'll need 4,562 meters of fencing if he wants to put a fence around the cow paddock. So this is an example of where we use perimeter in everyday life. On the next question, we're just going to be looking at some basic examples just to give us a bit more practice at calculating the perimeter of a shape. So in this example, what I want you guys to do for every question is I want you to write down all of the measurements before we start. So everywhere with a single dash has got the same length. So if this single dash is 8 millimeters, this dash over here is also 8 millimeters. This one's got 2 dashes. That doesn't mean it's 2 lots of 8. What that means is that everywhere with a double dash is also the same length. So if this double dash is 30 millimeters, that means that the double dash at the top here is also 30 millimeters. Now we've got all the lengths of our shape, so we can work out the perimeter. the perimeter is going to equal all the lengths added up. So we're going to take, we'll take this 8, we'll add it on to that 30, then we'll add it on to this 8, and then we'll add that onto that 30 there. And again, just grab your calculators out and we'll do that with the actual calculator. So we've got to do 8 plus 30 plus 8, and there's that other 30 hiding behind there, so plus another 30. And that gives me 76. So the perimeter of this shape is 76 millimeters because all the units are in millimeters. Just two quick things to highlight. You can circle the numbers, underline the numbers, do whatever you want. Just keep track of which numbers you've added up and which ones you haven't. Because when you're doing the perimeter, you just want to make sure that you add up all the different lengths together. Don't miss any. Also make sure that all the units are the same before you start adding up the lengths. If they're not the same, convert them so that they all are the same units. Alright, so let's look at this shape here. I want you guys to think to yourselves from the previous question, if this line at the top has got 3 dashes, and that's 30 meters, what's the length of the line going down the left-hand side here? That's also 13 meters because the number of dashes indicate that they are the same length. If this has got a single dash and it's 3, this has also got a single dash, which means it's also 3. What should the length of this part of the shape be? Well, we can see at the top, the double dash says it's 5 meters. So because we've got the double dash here, that's also 5 meters. So what I've done is I've just labeled all the side lengths before we start working out the perimeter. Now we know that the perimeter is just the sum of all of the lengths. So I'm going to start at the top and I'm going to do 13 plus 5 plus 3. I've done that 3. I still have to do this 3 though, so don't forget that one there. So we'll do plus that 3 as well. We'll add on this 5 and we'll add on that 13. Alright, and just quickly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've added up all my different sides. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the calculator out again and we'll add up all those lengths together. We've got 13 plus 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 5 plus 13. That gives me 42. So the length of the outside of the shape, the perimeter of the shape, is going to be 42 meters. We pick meters because that's what all of the units are in. Alright, so here's the next question. Calculate the perimeter of this shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight the sides that we know. We know that that's 9. And we know that that's 25. So we still need to work out what this bottom length here is going to be. Now I'm hoping you guys will see that the length of the 9 plus the length of the 25, if we added those two lines together, I'm just moving that line down here, the length of those two is the same as the length on the bottom. So the length on the bottom is actually going to be, let me get the pen, it's actually going to be 9 plus 25, which is 34 meters. So the length of the bottom line is 34 meters. Now what we have to do is we have to work out what the length of the left-hand side is. Because what do we know? We know that this length is 5. We know that this length is 8. And if we go up here and then up there, that's the same as this length on the left-hand side. So how do we work out the length on the left-hand side? Well, we're going to add the 5 and the 8 together. So 8 plus 5 equals 13 meters. All right, let's just do a quick check. Do I know all the lengths? I know that one, I know that one, I know this one, I know this one, I know this one, and I know that one. I know all the lengths now. Now I can work out the perimeter. The perimeter is just the sum of all the lengths. So we'll start at the 9 and we'll work our way around this way. I'm going to go 9 plus, and I'm just going to circle them as we go around. 9 plus 5 plus 25 plus 8 plus 34 plus 13. And let's work out what all of those are added together. So again, we'll bring up the calculator and we'll add all those lengths together. So 9 plus 5 plus 25 plus 8 plus 34 plus 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, added up all the numbers and that gives me 94. So the perimeter of this shape is going to be 94 meters. We use meters because all of the lengths are in meters. Alright, so this question is similar to the last one. So if you look on the left hand side here, we've got one tick. Okay, so everywhere with one tick it must be 5 meters. So this bit here is got to be 5 meters. Then we've got the double ticks. So we'll pick a different color. If we've got double tick here, if the double tick is 10, then the length of this side on the left hand side here must also be 10 meters. Then what else do we know? We know that if we cut this bit here down, and if we cut that bit there down, we can actually work out what the middle length should be. So if this distance is 5, and that distance there is 10, and the total distance is 30, as you can see at the top down here, that's 30 meters, that whole length there. What's the missing bit? So far we've got 10 and 5 is 15. What do we need to add on to 15 to get to 30? Well, it's actually 15 as well. So this length at the bottom that we need is actually 15 meters. There's one more length that we have to work out, which is the left hand side up here. So that's the last length that we need to work out. Well, what do we know? We know that this length here is 5 and this length here is 17. So that total length going from the top to the bottom is going to be 17 plus 5, which is 22 meters. Now that 22 meters should be the same as the length of the left hand side plus that 10. Alright, so that length there should also be 22 meters. But we know that this part of it is 10. So what bit do we need to add on to 10 that'll give us the rest of that line there? So we should have to add on 12 because 12 plus 10 gives us our 22. So on the left hand side here, this length is actually 12 meters. Alright, so now we've got all of our different lengths. Let's calculate what the perimeter is. The perimeter is going to equal, and we'll start at the 30 at the top. So it's going to be 30 plus 17 plus 10 plus 5. We've gone 30, 17, we've done the 10, we've done the 5, plus the 15 at the bottom. Plus the 10, plus the 5, plus the 12. And then we get back to our 30 at the top there. So how many different sides do we have? We've got, let's choose a different pen color. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different numbers. We know that we've got all of our sides. Now all that's left to do is to add up all of those in our calculators. We'll grab the calculator out and we'll add up all those different lengths. So we're going to go 30 plus 17 plus 10 plus 5 plus 15 plus 10 plus 5 plus 12. That gets me 104. So the length around this shape, the perimeter of this shape, is 104 meters. Again, it's meters because all of our units are in meters. Alright, second last question for this lesson. We need to work out what the perimeter of this shape is. Now, just quickly look at all the units and just check if all the units are the same. Well, they're not. So the first thing we need to do is to convert all the units that they are the same. So I've got meters and meters. and I've got centimeters and centimeters. So you can either convert everything into meters, or you can convert everything into centimeters. I'm going to convert everything into meters. So if we look at our flow chart that we had on the previous lesson, what we should know is that to go from centimeters to meters is we have to divide it by 100. So I have to divide 135 by 100, which gives me 1.35. And I have to divide 150 by 100, which gives me 1.50. And those are in meters. Now everything's in meters. We know what all of the lengths are. We can calculate the perimeter. So the perimeter is going to be 2.2 plus 1.8 plus 1.5 plus 1.35. Those are all the sides added together. And that gives me 6.85. 6.85, and the units that we're going to use are meters. Now, if you did convert everything into centimeters, what you should end up with is 685 centimeters. Because to go from meters to centimeters, you have to times it by 100. Alright, so I want you guys to pause the video now, and I want you to have a go at answering this question. Okay, so hopefully you've had a good go at that question. Let's see what the answer is. So the first thing I notice is that all the units are different. So I've got meters, meters, centimeters, 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 and millimeters. Now, because I got 3 things in centimeters, I'm going to convert everything to centimeters because it's going to mean less conversions for me. So we need to go from millimeters to centimeters. The way we do that is we divide it by 10. So that 6,900 millimeters is actually 690 centimeters. To go from meters to centimeters, we have to times it by 100. So 3.8 times 100 is 380 centimeters. The 450 is already in centimeters. 6.3 meters, when we times it by 100, is 630 centimeters. And now everything's in centimeters for me. All we need to do now is add up all the numbers to get the perimeter. So the perimeter is going to be, I'm going to start at the 690 and I'm going to work my way around in a clockwise direction. So we're going to go 690 plus 780 plus 520 plus 630 plus 450 plus 380. And then the next one would be the 690 again, but we don't want to count it twice. Then we just need to add up all of those numbers, giving us a total perimeter of 3,450. So 3,450. And what units do we have to use? We're going to use millimeters, meters, centimeters. Well, we added up everything in centimeters, so the answer is centimeters. If you wanted to, you could convert that into meters. So to go from centimeters to meters, you divide it by 100, and that would give me 34.50 meters. And we could also write it in millimeters if we wanted to, by timesing it by 10. So 34,500 millimeters. So we could have done this in any of the units, but I chose centimeters because that was what most of the units were in. That means less work for me later on. Alright, last question for the day, and this is a bit of a problem-solving question. A farmer buys 2,600 meters of fencing for a square paddock. What are the dimensions of the paddock? And again, they haven't given us a picture for this, so I'm just going to draw a picture. We know it's a square. We know that all the sides must be equal in length. So this is my square paddock. And we know that all of these sides added together gives me the perimeter or the fencing of 2,600. So I'm going to call each of the sides x. So x represents the length of each side. So we know that the perimeter is going to equal x plus x plus x plus x. We know that when we're adding all these x's together, there's 4 lots of x. And we also know that the perimeter is 2,600 meters. So we're going to go 2,600 there. So what we're looking for is 4 times what number gives me x. The way we're going to work that out is we're going to divide this perimeter into 4 equal parts. So the length of each side is going to be 2,600 divided into 4 equal parts. We'll grab the calculators there, and we're going to go 2,600 divided into 4 equal parts gives me 650. That's 650 meters. So what are the dimensions of the paddock? Well, the dimensions of the paddock, each side is the same length, and each length is 650 meters. Alright, so what I want you guys to do now is click the next button, have a go at the multiple choice quizzes, and then do the exercise at the end of the PowerPoint.